Welcome back to the channel Coins Dealer everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and talked about stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that revolves around a single 1989 D-dime that has been valued at a jaw-dropping $93 million, far beyond its modest 10-cent face value. And in this video we will explore why this small coin has become the center of so much intrigue, speculation, and excitement among collectors and historians alike, a tale that mixes rare minting errors, unusual mistakes, mysterious anomalies, and the sheer wonder of how something meant for everyday pocket change could transform into a priceless treasure that stirs the imagination of millions around the globe. So let's step into the world where numismatics meets mystery and discover what makes this coin so rare and valuable. Because at first glance the 1989 D-dime looks just like any other coin from that year, minted in large numbers at the Denver Mint with its familiar Roosevelt portrait on the obverse and the torch, oak branch and olive branch design on the reverse. But within this sea of ordinary dimes lies one specimen that broke free from the mold of standard production and carried with it errors and oddities so unique that it defied conventional valuations. Now when we talk about mint errors we are referring to the unusual occurrences that happen during the production process at the mint, and such mistakes can include off-center strikes, double dies, missing elements, misaligned dies, wrong planchets, or even misplaced mint marks. And while errors are not uncommon in the long history of US coinage, what makes some of them stand out is their combination of rarity, condition, and the story they tell. And the 1989 D-dime valued at $93 million reportedly contains a mix of such mistakes that collectors believe could never be replicated. For example, some accounts suggest that the coin shows evidence of a double die on Roosevelt's face where details appear to be doubled under magnification, giving it a ghostly appearance, while others point to an unusual mint mark placement, as this D of the Denver Mint seems misaligned or punched over another mark entirely, a phenomenon known as an overmint mark error. And these sorts of anomalies always add a layer of intrigue because they imply either human oversight or mechanical malfunction during production. Furthermore, whispers in numismatic circles indicate that the coin may have been struck on the wrong planchet altogether, perhaps using metal stock intended for a foreign coin or another denomination, creating a composition error that collectors prize beyond measure. And what makes this story even more captivating is the mystery surrounding how such an error could slip past quality control at the mint in 1989 when production systems were already well advanced, leading some to speculate that the coin may not have been a simple accident but possibly the result of a deliberate test strike or an experimental piece that somehow escaped into circulation. And when rarity meets mystery and both meet high collector demand, the value of an object can skyrocket beyond rational expectations, which is exactly what we see with this dime. Now, to understand why such coins command astronomical prices, one has to step into the psychology of collecting, where the blend of scarcity, historical narrative, and prestige converge, and in the case of this dime its uniqueness places it in a category all its own, because collectors and investors are not merely buying a piece of metal but a story, a conversation piece, a tangible relic of minting history that sparks debate and admiration. And when wealthy collectors enter the market to outbid one another, prices rise beyond ordinary scales until we reach valuations that seem impossible for such a small coin. Yet here it stands, the $93 million dime. Moreover, the allure of mint mark errors plays a huge role in this valuation, as collectors place extraordinary weight on the placement, size, and clarity of mint marks. And if indeed the 1989 D-dime features a mint mark anomaly unlike any other seen before, that would immediately elevate its status into legendary territory. Think about it, that D is the small detail that identifies the Denver Mint. And an error there suggests a 1 in a billion occurrence, because mint mark punches were carefully managed by hand for years, and even when automated, strict controls were in place. So for something so drastically different to emerge adds a layer of impossibility that fuels collector obsession, and the possibility of layered mistakes, meaning the coin does not only carry one error but several simultaneously, creates what is known as a compound rarity, something so unique that no other specimen could rival it, which only drives demand higher. Another key reason behind the value is condition, because if this coin survived in mint state or near perfect preservation, free from circulation wear, then its errors shine all the brighter, making it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And beyond technicalities there is also the cultural fascination, because ordinary people love to dream of finding treasure in their pocket change, and stories like the $93 million dime ignite the imagination, reminding us that extraordinary value can be hidden in the most mundane objects, and that possibility makes the story of the 1989 D-Dime larger than life, sparking conversations across coin forums, collector clubs, online auctions and news features. And while some skeptics question whether the $93 million valuation is more hype than reality, the fact remains that error coins with unique traits have consistently sold for millions. So when the ultimate combination of factors align, the sky is truly the limit. And so as we reflect on this small yet mighty piece of history, the lesson is clear that in numismatics every coin has a story, and sometimes that story can elevate a simple 10-cent piece into a legend worth tens of millions, inspiring us to look more closely at the change we hold in our hands and to imagine the untold tales that lie within the world of coins. We are going to explore the tale of a 1981 dime coin that, despite its tiny face value of just 10 cents, has been valued by collectors and experts at an astonishing $54 million, a number so jaw-dropping that it instantly makes people wonder how a coin so common and ordinary could be transformed into a treasure beyond imagination. And the answer lies not in the basic design or its intended circulation purpose but in the series of rare mistakes, mint errors, striking anomalies, and historical possibilities that surround this specific piece, making it one of the most valuable coins in numismatic history. So let us settle in and take a closer look at the reasons why this coin has become a legend and why collectors with deep pockets are willing to go to unimaginable lengths to possess it, because it is not just the material of the coin or its small silver content that matters, but rather the fact that it carries within its surface a story of imperfection, rarity, and chance that cannot be replicated. And that is the true magic of numismatics, where value is dictated not by face numbers printed or stamped but by circumstances, scarcity, and the human desire to own a piece of history. The 1980 dime in question did not roll off the minting presses like the countless millions of other dimes that year which were produced in the United States mint facilities, but instead it emerged with certain peculiarities that only the sharp eyes of experts could identify, and the most significant of these was the mint mark error which, in the world of coin collecting, can often spell the difference between a piece worth pocket change and a piece worth a fortune, because mint marks denote where the coin was struck, and in the late 20th century errors such as missing mint marks, misplaced mint marks, or doubled mint marks became particularly prized, since such errors were usually caught by quality control and corrected before large numbers could leave the mint, making any surviving examples highly unusual and therefore extremely valuable. And in this case the dime that has stunned the collecting community is believed to have been struck without its intended mint mark or with an incorrectly placed one, creating a mysterious variant that very few people even knew existed, and even fewer ever had the chance to see, let alone own. Beyond the mint mark error, the coin also exhibited other anomalies such as slight misalignments in its strike, unusual die cracks, and even what appeared to be faint doubling on some of its details. And while these errors might seem trivial to the untrained eye, to coin experts they transform the dime from ordinary to extraordinary, because such mistakes tell a story of the coin's creation, revealing that something went awry during its minting process. And in the world of collectors, anything that deviates from the expected norm can dramatically increase a coin's rarity, and rarity, when coupled with demand, leads directly to astronomical valuations. What makes this 1980 dime even more intriguing is the mystery that surrounds how many of these error coins might exist, because unlike regular issues where millions are known, in this case experts believe only one or perhaps a handful at most ever escaped into circulation, which means that the coin is essentially unique, and uniqueness in the collecting world is priceless, because it means that whoever owns it can rightly claim to have a treasure that no one else possesses, and that exclusivity is what drives the value into the tens of millions, creating a feeding frenzy among high-end collectors and investors who see such pieces as not just artifacts but as assets that can appreciate even further over time. To understand why this coin reached a valuation of $54 million, we must also consider the psychology of collecting, because people are not just buying metal, they are buying history, stories, bragging rights, and a sense of being part of something larger than themselves, and in this case, the 1980 dime represents the ultimate collectible, combining rarity, mystery, and error in a way that few other coins ever have, and that makes it irresistible to those who can afford it, and this is why auctions featuring such coins often spiral into bidding wars where wealthy individuals compete not just for the object itself but for the prestige of owning something so rare that it instantly sets them apart in the world of numismatics. Imagine the journey of this coin, struck over 40 years ago in a mint facility, perhaps overlooked by inspectors, slipped into circulation or maybe kept aside unknowingly, passed through hands and pockets without anyone realizing its hidden potential, until finally it surfaced, examined under magnification, authenticated by experts, and revealed to be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And from that moment its fate was sealed as one of the most valuable dimes ever known, its humble 10-cent denomination erased by the tidal wave of collector demand and historical significance, and now its story serves as a reminder that treasures can often be hiding in plain sight, that even the most ordinary objects can hold secrets waiting to be discovered, and that sometimes luck and knowledge can turn a tiny coin into a multi-million-dollar fortune. So when we hear about a 1980 dime worth $54 million, it is not just about metal or money, it is about a perfect storm of rarity, error, and human fascination, and it teaches us that the smallest details, a misplaced mint mark, a faint doubling, a missing symbol, can rewrite the destiny of a coin forever, elevating it from spare change to legendary status, and as long as there are collectors searching, dreaming, and competing, the story of this remarkable dime will continue to inspire, astonish, and remind us all that in the world of coins, value is never just about what is stamped on the surface, but about the deeper stories hidden within. World of rare coins, where tiny pieces of metal tell incredible stories and hold values that can reach millions, and today we are unraveling the legend of the 1972 one-dime coin that astonishingly reached a worth of around $54 million, a jaw-dropping leap from its humble face value of just 10 cents, a difference so monumental that it sparks curiosity, amazement, and even disbelief among collectors and enthusiasts who wonder how a coin so common in circulation could transform into such a treasure. And the key lies not in ordinary minting but in the extraordinary mistakes, errors, and peculiarities that occurred during its production at the United States Mint, mistakes that to most might look like defects but to numismatists open the door to immense rarity, historical intrigue, and incredible monetary value, for in 1972 the Mint was producing billions of coins. Machines were working tirelessly, dies were being pressed continuously, and human oversight was stretched thin. All factors that increase the chances of anomalies slipping through undetected, and when such anomalies are combined with the survival of only a handful of examples, they create a perfect storm for rarity, which is the true driver of astronomical value in the coin world, because rarity combined with demand is what sets legendary prices. So what exactly makes this 1972 dime so special? Well, there are several possible explanations that collectors and experts have studied, the first being mint mark errors, since during that period dimes were produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with corresponding marks like D or S stamped on the obverse of the coin, yet occasionally coins would leave the mint without any mint mark, or with a misplaced mint mark, or with doubling in the lettering that makes them distinct, and in the case of this ultra-rare dime it is believed a minuscule but crucial mistake in the mint mark placement, size, or even absence catapulted it into the realm of uniqueness, because even though many coins from that era show small variations, the one that gained such legendary value showed an error so extreme and so unlike its peers that it became a one-of-a-kind survivor. The second explanation lies in die errors, where the coin dies used for striking were sometimes improperly polished, cracked, overused, or incorrectly aligned, leading to varieties like double dies where features on the coin appear duplicated or shadowed, and a double die on a 1972 dime. Particularly around the date, the lettering, or the torch and olive branch on the reverse could create a standout variety, and when combined with an incorrect or missing mint mark, suddenly you have a coin that is entirely unique, a true anomaly in the vast sea of dimes. Another aspect is planchette errors, which means the blank metal discs that are struck into coins, sometimes planchets were the wrong size, the wrong metal composition, or improperly prepared, resulting in coins that were either thinner, thicker, or colored differently than normal circulation pieces. Imagine a dime struck on a foreign planchette or one that was slightly off-center yet still clearly struck. This type of mistake would only survive if someone recognized it as different and held on to it, and if that piece happened to be from 1972 with further compounded errors, then you can see why the valuation skyrocketed. Because it becomes the rarest of the rare, a coin that collectors fight over in bidding wars. Another possibility is proof coins, as proof strikes were specially made for collectors with highly polished dies, but sometimes proof coins accidentally entered circulation or had errors in their creation. A proof error dime from 1972 with additional mistakes would be almost mythical in rarity, and myths always fuel the imagination and the wallets of collectors who are willing to pay tens of millions to secure ownership. It is important to understand that not every error coin is valuable. Most are only worth a few dollars or a few hundred at best. But when you combine uniqueness, provenance, historical timing, and a bit of mystery, you get cases like the 1972 dime where the right buyer values the piece so highly that its auction price dwarfs its intended worth. The psychology of collecting also plays a role, as owning a one-of-a-kind coin is like owning a painting by a master artist. The rarity is priceless, the bragging rights incomparable, and the potential for future appreciation enormous. Thus collectors treat these coins as investments, status symbols, and pieces of history. The 1972 dime story is not just about metal and errors, it is about human fascination with the rare and unusual, about the thrill of finding a hidden treasure in ordinary change, and about the passion of numismatics which transforms small circles of metal into cultural artifacts worth fortunes. So while millions of 1972 dimes exist and are worth only their 10-cent face value, the one dime with the right combination of mint mark anomaly, die error, and possibly planchet irregularity has been elevated to legendary status, sitting among the most valuable coins ever discovered, teaching us that mistakes are not always flaws but sometimes the very thing that creates uniqueness and unimaginable worth. So the next time you hold a simple dime in your hand, remember that history, luck, and a touch of error could turn it into something far greater, and maybe one day you might stumble across a coin that changes your life forever.